My guest today is a veteran oyster farmer and Maine Senate candidate, Graham Platner. Graham, great to see you.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for doing the show, and thank you for bearing with 15 minutes of Amazon Web Service, Amazon-related tech problems at the jump here. It's been very fun. Thank you, Jeff Bezos. Okay. I want to cover a bunch of stuff with you, but first, I just wanted to ask you about this kind of flurry of news reports about Reddit posts you made between 2009 and 2021. There's an Axios headline this past week that described the week for you guys as Bernie back Maine Senate candidate melts down. So maybe by the end of the conversation, we can fact check that headline too, and you tell me if that's how you feel.
Interesting.
Axios, yeah. They summon it all up for you, primary in June. So the first Reddit post I wanted to ask you about is from 2013. So someone wrote on Reddit, "What is one question you've always wanted to ask someone of another race?" You responded, "Why don't black people tip? I work as a bartender, and it always amazes me how solid the stereotype is. Every now and again, a black patron will leave a 15 to 20% tip, but usually it is between 0 and 5%. There's got to be a reason behind it. What is it?" End of quote. How did you feel rereading that post? And what's your response to people who hear that and think that is like textbook racism and it's offensive?
I mean, one, I was legitimately asking the question. I mean, that was the point of the thread, was to ask the question. Amusingly enough, I remember this time when I had first started bartending, and then I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was black, who was a bartender, who did a great job of walking me through structural injustice and the fact of feelings of lack of agency. There were a whole bunch of reasons, and after that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes absolutely perfect sense. It was certainly not meant as a malicious thing. I was asking the question because that was kind of the point of the thread, actually.
So you're saying that this is not something that you were shitposting about. This was not something that you felt, it wasn't meant to be a commentary. It was a question you were sincerely asking on a Reddit thread because you thought there might be some sort of like cultural explanation or something. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I like I grew up in Maine. I had never bartended before. I was living in Washington, D.C. And I mean, I reread a lot of the comments for obvious reasons. Many of them I'm like, oh God. That one I must say, I mean, I was legitimately curious. And it was not, certainly not meant in any malicious way. And I got an answer soon afterwards in reality from an actual person, but.
Got it. Okay. So another one that's gotten a lot of attention is there were posts from 2013 where it seemed like you were playing down the challenges faced by members of the military who were trying to report sexual assault allegations. The first post was, "In today's current climate, when every whisper of a misplaced hand brings down a feature-length film, anyone who actually thinks the military is purposely covering up rape to save a career of some goddamn captain is clearly both an idiot and junior enough in rank or life experience to think it matters." And then there was another post where you suggested that the way to avoid getting sexually assaulted was not to get blacked out drunk. Again, what do you say to someone who hears those comments and feels like it's minimizing a very serious problem, if not suggesting that the victims are the ones to blame for sexual assault?
Yeah, I mean, they would be correct in that. I mean, I didn't know what I was talking about. I had, at this point, I had just gotten out of the infantry. It's important, like my time in the service was in the infantry. At that point, it was an all male branch. I had only recently separated, and my frame of reference was that world. And that was not a world in which, frankly, I had very little interaction with women in the service. Very soon after, actually, this time frame, when I started going to college, I became very close friends with a number of vets, female vets at George Washington, and all of them had a story. And I very quickly changed my tune. I think you'll find even not that much later in my Reddit history me acknowledging that. That was a moment in time in which I had not yet been exposed to things, and I had a opinion or I had thoughts that were colored by my experience in the service. But my experience in the service was frankly limited. I mean, that's when I reread those, I see me not knowing what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah. And sort of beyond like the substantive concern with the comments you made, I think is a political one, right? Like, as you know better than anyone, Maine is a really important Senate race, and Democrats are worried that if you're the nominee, like Susan Collins or the many super PACs that support Republicans will spend $50 million, $100 million on negative ads featuring a bunch of these Reddit posts. There's ones where you call yourself a communist. There's ones where you call police officers bastards. There's one where you say that rural white Americans actually are racist and stupid. What do you say to that, and how do you combat that?
Yeah, I mean, first, I mean, those were definitely, that was me trying to get a rise out of people on the internet. Those are not reflective of those weren't even reflective of my opinions back then. I would say that it is a little rich hearing about this right now when just last week there was a pro Susan Collins ad run with Janet Mills in it saying nice things about her. Like it is and I also, quite frankly, think that as I go around the state of Maine and talk to people, which we've been doing, I mean, the past month has been me on the road, going all over the place. As I interact with people directly, as I hold town halls, as I get myself out there more, people are going to recognize that this is not at all the person that they've come to know and come to interact with in reality. So, I mean, look, they're going to call me a communist. They always call us communists. They're going to call us socialists. They're going to call us wacko lefties. They called Hillary Clinton a communist. I mean, like in many ways, we're not getting away from it. I also think that a lot of that's kind of run its road. And the way that you combat it is the way that you combat, frankly, a lot of this negative nonsense online is you just interact with people in reality. In a state like Maine, with 500 to 600,000 voters, and we have a year before the election, we can do that. We can really go out and spend a lot of time interacting with people. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. So I was talking to a couple of people who oppose your candidacy, who are working for other organizations or candidates. And they said to me, like, look, these Reddit posts, some of them aren't from that long ago. There are more posts that are out there that we know about that have not been written about yet. And kind of the suggestion is, what else do we know about this guy? The argument is you're unvetted. It's too risky to nominate you. What would you say to Democrats who share that anxiety?
There is nothing that I can remotely think of that is out there that is any worse or really any different than what has come out. I mean, I posted on the internet for a long time when I was in a point in my life where I was looking for a lot of, I would say, community, looking for an outlet. I had an immense amount of disillusionment, an immense amount of anger. I use the internet as a place to find an outlet for that, which I think is fairly normal. Mm-hmm. But there is, I mean, if that is their concern, then they can go find more stuff. But I mean, I've honestly racked my brain about I've not lived I haven't lived a boring life, but I haven't lived a very complicated one. I've never been close to money and power. I've never had the opportunity to like screw people over in an awful way. I mean, I was in the service. I certainly struggled afterwards, but even then, I mean, my struggles were my own. They didn't impact other people. They just impacted my life negatively. And the time that I was active on the internet was the exact same time that I was active on the internet. And that is that part of my life. It's no surprise to me that I was no longer active after 2021, because that's frankly when my life kind of began to get good. For those who are worried about me not being vetted, there is just nothing that besides like stupid internet comments, besides, I mean, honestly, like I've never robbed anybody. I've never beaten anybody. The only violence I've ever used is, frankly, violence that the United States government asked me to go conduct. There is very little. And I certainly was never close to money and power, which I think is also things are pretty simple when you live a simple life.
Yeah, I really want to ask you about your time in the U.S. military, your thoughts on bigger picture things, but I did want to just sort of ask you about all the shitty stuff that's getting thrown your way, because I know it's been an intense week of sort of, it's clearly like some sort of opposition research switch was flipped, right? There's been a lot of incoming, and I've heard a couple more sort of strands of attacks. So for one, you made this video, it's about 5 minutes long. It's on Twitter and other platforms, explaining the Reddit posts and talking about how when you got out of the military, you had kind of like crude humor and crass language that was the hallmark of the infantry when you were in the Marine Corps. The NRSC interpreted those comments as you blaming your fellow servicemen for the Reddit posts. So that was sort of one strain of, I guess, attack on the attacks. Second, I've heard that there's a whisper campaign questioning whether you should be getting disability benefits for your bad back or your bad knee, because you also released a campaign video where you're swinging a kettlebell. And then,
This, by the way, that's what the kettlebell is for.
the bad back.
I mean, I've done years and years of physical therapy, and maintaining a strong core is legitimately what keeps my herniated discs from putting me into crippling pain. Like it's amusing to me. It's not amusing. It's infuriating, actually, to have people like question my disability rating, question the reason that I'm doing well is because of the help I got. That's the point. That's the purpose of therapy. That's the purpose of support. Like, to look at someone and say, oh my God, look, they're living a good life because after we provided them support and continue to give support for them to live that good life, they're living it, is absurd. Like, what's the pitch here? We're supposed to like strip benefits from disabled veterans? That we're supposed to like look at people with multiple combat tours with banged up bodies and struggles from trauma? We're supposed to look at that and say that like you're not supposed to get help? I mean, this is something that actually deeply angers me. It took me a long time before I was okay with asking for help, because coming out of the infantry when I did, and you can ask any infantryman that came out of the wars the time I did, this was not a thing that we did. There was a taboo around it. There was shame around it. There was this idea that if you did, you were going to no longer be able to get a job, that you'd be ostracized by society. And the fact that like I got through all of that, and when I go to serve again, when I go to run for office in my state, my own party comes after me saying that I am not deserving of the life that I've been able to build with help from the VA because of my military service. That gets me pretty pissed.
Yeah.
Gets me pretty heated.
The suggestion seems to be you shouldn't get better,
That's right.
Right.
Or the idea is that by getting better, you're then just better, and you're no longer in need of the things that got you better. That isn't how any of this works. It's not how physical therapy works. It's not how normal therapy works. It is all into for me to run and do this and put myself out here as essentially a very regular person. My wife and I do not live an extravagant life. We have not lived a life of power and wealth. We've lived a very simple one. And this to us feels like a way of giving back and doing something good for the state of Maine and for the world in some ways. And by doing that, I get attacked by Democrats about being a disabled veteran. That, like, what does that even send as a message to other guys who might be, or men and women who are disabled veterans who might want to get involved? This is brutal. Like, getting your life ripped apart and having people go after your military service and go after your struggles afterwards as some like political football, it doesn't feel good. And I don't think anybody's going to look at that and be like, oh, I wish that would happen to me. Yeah. And I mean, if the goal here is to keep disabled veterans from running for office, then they should keep it up. But that seems like a pretty ridiculous goal at a time where the Democratic Party seems to be hemorrhaging demographics of all kinds. You'd think you'd want it to make it more inclusive, not the opposite.
Yeah, I would argue, too, that, there's someone who's, I've never served in the military. I've worked in politics for a while now. I have noticed that I feel like veterans get held to a higher standard than almost anyone else when people are looking at their record, right? It's like, did John Kerry throw his medals or not? It's like, well, he served in Vietnam and got 2 Purple Hearts and,
they were his medals to throw.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Tim Wall's similar thing. It's like, well, he was in for 20 years. Let's pick apart his record anyway. Thank you for addressing that, though. And then, finally, like this one is probably equally as offensive. But, this other person I was talking to said, this person said you were being called a blue falcon on internet forums, which I'd never heard that term before. But I think the suggestion was maybe you were blaming your service or your PTSD for the Reddit comments rather than taking responsibility. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on that line of attack, because it's sort of similar.
Of course not. That's not what I mean. That's literally not what I said.
Yeah.
I do think explaining the fact that I struggled with alienation, isolation, and the effects of PTSD after my military service, and that's why I was on the internet, frankly, getting in fights with people and shitposting. Um, I'm not trying to blame anything else, but I do think it warrants explanation. And that it was a dark time in my life, man. Like I'm just gonna be straight up. I was not doing good for a couple of years there. And it took me a long time, even after I moved back to Maine, even after I started settling, it took me a long time to really begin feeling settled again. And like I said, it's no surprise to me that I like stopped really using the internet around 2021, because that's when I'd settled in. I got back from Afghanistan. My last trip was in 2018. So I get back from Afghanistan summer 2018 for my last time over, fully disillusioned, fully convinced that the whole thing was utterly pointless. And that got me really, really cynical for a number of years. And it took about a year and a half, 2 years for me to settle back into, frankly, society. And I'm lucky. I'm immensely lucky that I come from a small town, that I moved back to a small town, that I'm very connected with my neighbors, my community, and my family. I got to meet my wife. I mean, like life got good.
Is that what
And
pulled you out of that sort of place of
totally.
despair?
It also, I mean, like there was a time, there was a time there where I was really down on this whole project. I was really down on like, because I saw everything as a complete waste. Like I got very nihilistic, I got very critical. And then you like settle in and you reconnect with human beings in the real world, not on the internet, but like in the actual world. And you build a community and you find yourself connected with folks. And that entirely rebuilt my faith. It rebuilt my faith in America. It rebuilt my faith in our ability to be what we say we want to be. It rebuilt my faith in people. And like I got that because I got to move back to the place that I was from, and because I got the support that I got from the VA to put me in, frankly, a much better place, both materially and mentally. And I got support and help. That's what got me through it, and that's what allowed me to reconnect. And that's what gives me, frankly, the immense amount of hope that I have to undertake this project. I mean, I'm not doing this from a place of like cynicism or a place of ego. I'm doing this because I honestly think we need to do something different. We need to try a different kind of politics. What we are doing right now is clearly not working. There is so much resentment, there's so much hate. And coming from a tiny town where a lot of my neighbors and I do not agree on politics, and yet we're all friends. We all know each other. Everybody still supports each other. They're like, for me, I see in that the way forward, and that colors my politics and it colors how I'm running. And to have people like look at this whole experience that I've gone through in my life and want to throw it in my face, and to know that it's coming from the same political establishment that frankly made me go fight in these wars in the first place is like doubly infuriating.
Yeah.
It's like you made me go, like I volunteered to go do this stuff. You sent us off. You took advantage of us. You took advantage of our patriotism. You took advantage of our willingness to sacrifice ourselves, of our willingness to take part in this stuff. And we come back and struggle. And then and for years struggle without help. And then finally get help, finally rebuild a good life, finally find like a place of real community and depth and a connection to this world. And then to have that exact same apparatus, take that whole experience and try to weaponize it. It's disgusting, man. It actually legitimately infuriates me.
I can understand it. Obviously like people's votes and quotes and, life experience is going to be part of a political campaign. But
Right.
the Oppo research world gets pretty fucking disgusting at points. And I
Yeah.
think you're kind of hinting at that. Speaking of which, in kind of a non-traditional campaign move, your team actually shared some opposition research on you with me. It's a video from, I believe, a decade ago. Let's just watch an excerpt and then we should talk about it. First of all, what we're watching there was Graham wearing just his boxer briefs.
Silkies. Those are Marine Corps running shorts.
Pardon me, Silkies. First of all, great song choice. Tell us what's happening there, where you are. There's probably some listeners who are very confused. And the reason we are showing this video is because at the very end, you can see a tattoo on your chest. And I've been told that some of your political opponents are telling reporters that that tattoo has a Nazi affiliation. And I would like to know, is that accurate? Are you a secret Nazi?
I am not a secret Nazi. Actually, if you read through my Reddit comments, I think you can pretty much figure out where I stand on Nazism,
right,
and anti-Semitism and racism in general. I would say a lifelong opponent. The video is from my brother's marriage to his wife, to my sister-in-law, who I was serenading. I told them that my wedding gift to them would be my embarrassment. And so I performed a lip sync version of Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball to my sister-in-law on the day of her wedding to my brother. And now, of course, that embarrassment, which was mostly just held internally in the family, as we always watch that video at family events and laughed, is now shared with the world. So I feel like I'm just going to give them a wedding gift for the rest of my life. Which is great. I love them. The reason, by the way, the reason of this video, Saturday was their 10th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congrats.
And my sister-in-law was showing everybody the video.
Nice.
And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. There's me being embarrassed. But what we also, so in 2007, I was a machine gun section leader with Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines. We were on the 2-2 Mu. And it was my third deployment. My previous two had been to Fallujah and then Ramadi, 2006. And we went ashore in Split, Croatia, myself and a few of the other machine gun squad leaders. And we got very inebriated. And we did what Marines on liberty do, and we decided to go get a tattoo. And we went to a tattoo parlor in Split, Croatia, and we chose a terrifying looking skull and crossbones off the wall because we were Marines, and skulls and crossbones are a pretty standard military thing. And we got those tattoos, and then we all moved on with our lives. And I actually joined the Army after that, where I got, I had to go to MEPS. I got screened. Later on, I got a security clearance and a full screen when I went to work for the State Department as a contractor doing security for the ambassador to Afghanistan in 2018. And I've also just lived my entire life like a regular person with the skull and crossbones on their chest, which by that I mean taking my shirt off, performing Miley Cyrus songs in front of my extended family, and to my sister-in-law, and just taking my shirt off at the beach.
Right, presumably going to the beach, yeah.
I mean, I went to college, I went to the gym, I did all the things, and at no point in this entire experience of my life did anybody ever once say, hey, you're a Nazi. It never came up until we got wind that in the opposition research, somebody was shopping the idea that I was a secret Nazi with a hidden Nazi tattoo. And I can honestly say that if I was trying to hide it, I've not been doing a very good job for the past 18 years.
Yeah.
So
you're a self-described communist, but also a Nazi.
I will say the fact that I've managed to go from communist to Nazi in the space of 4 days, according to the people who are trying to do this to me, I find to be quite a spectacular turn of events, but
Well, like Miley, you've got range. Okay, so like you came into this, you're just you're a normal guy. You want to make the country a better place. Did you know this shit was going to happen? Like, did you go to your staff beforehand being like, look, I was a Reddit shit poster for a long time. There's some things that are going to come out. Let's delete this old account. Like, let's get ready for this. Or has this just been a gut punch of like stuff you've forgotten you'd written coming back at you?
I'm an elder millennial. I am well aware that everything I wrote on the internet exists. I know what the Wayback Machine. I mean, the idea that like I went through years on the internet and now think that like there's some way to make that go away is absurd. So no, I mean, and you look, I knew they were going to throw. I knew that they were going to throw the book at me, right? Like I knew that we are up against the machine. We were told not to run this race. I was specifically like, we were sent messages saying we were not supposed to do this. We had to wait our turn. We didn't have permission. And that if we did it, they were going to try to just destroy my life. And that is what they're trying to do. I will say the Nazi part did not see that coming. Sorry. That one's out of right field, I guess.
Yeah.
But the yeah, I mean, I was early on like, look, I posted on Reddit for years. I'm sure I said some dumb stuff. It was also a dark time in my life. I also used to like get drunk and post on Reddit because that was fun when I was angry and alone. And pretty sure that accounts for most of my bad behavior. Again, not trying to make excuses. It was me. I did it. And the things that I said that I do, I mean, there are things that I said, there are words that I use that I'm utterly horrified by. And I'm not blaming anybody else, but the idea that like that a person cannot like evolve and grow from years ago is, I think, pretty laughable to the average human being, especially this day and age. Everybody's posted something stupid on the internet. But
Yeah. I look for what it's worth. I also appreciate that you wanted to come on here and talk about this stuff and just have a shitty, uncomfortable conversation because how else are you going to move through this?
the thing that people hate about this, I mean, like the thing that I've hated about politics for a long time is that people are not real, right? Like there's this whole thing, there's this show that gets put on. It feels so devoid of emotion. It feels sort of devoid of depth. It's always driven me insane. And like I knew some of this stuff was going to come. I knew that I was going to have conversations like this at some point. And I think the way to deal with this stuff is you take responsibility for it. You offer explanation. You also show how it isn't you anymore at all. And I think, frankly, I mean, I'm very proud of the person I am today. I'm very proud of my politics. I'm very proud of the work I've done in my community for years. I'm very proud of like the relationships I've built. I'm proud of my marriage. Like I'm proud of all of these things. And I don't get any of this without having gone through all of that. I don't think that we need to come up with bigger structural solutions to our problems without getting disillusioned.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to get disillusioned before I thought that maybe the thing that we have now is not the answer. Like it is. And then I needed to get really disillusioned. And then I had to rebuild some faith. I had to rebuild hope in my community, which came from actual like work and therapy. I mean, if there's one thing I can say, I went to therapy for years. I still go to therapy. Super helpful. It's great. More people should do it. Makes you a better person. Makes you all around happier, gives you a lot more tools to engage with thoughts and feelings that you otherwise don't have tools for. So it's I'm not embarrassed by any of this stuff. I'm embarrassed by things that I said, but I'm not embarrassed by my life. And I'm more than happy to talk about it openly.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Last question on internet comments. You never posted on the website Nude Africa, right?
I did not.
Okay.
I avoided that one, thank God.
Yep.
In fact, but oh boy, I remember that story.
Mr. Mark Robinson, we miss you. Okay.
Tiny soldier, I think, something like that.
Wow, you have a good memory. So you enlisted in the Marine Corps. You deployed to Iraq in 2005. You got back. You later enlisted in the Army, and then you did this additional tour of duty in Afghanistan. Can you tell us about what were those deployments like for you? What did they teach you about yourself and about the United States? Like, take us through that journey.
Yeah, I joined up in '04. I was 19, and I joined the infantry. I wanted to fight. I'd wanted to be a soldier since the day I mean, as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a soldier. I I joined the Marine Corps because the Marine Corps had the reputation as being the Marine Corps. I mean, if you want to fight, then you join the infantry and you join the like that. Like that's everybody knows Marine Corps combat infantry. That's where the action is. And I did not get disappointed. I joined in February of '04, and I was on my first deployment in January of '05, outside of Fallujah. We operated from Abu Ghraib prison. We just used it as a patrol base. I wasn't involved. This was after. Abu Ghraib prison area, Nasr wa Salam, Al Karma, pretty much the area to the east of Fallujah proper. We were there for 7 to 8 months, came back, was home for 5 months, and we redeployed to Ramadi in, I believe it was February of 2006, February or March. And then I spent 8 months in Ramadi, and that was the most intense of my deployments, hands down. Ramadi 2006
Yeah.
was
I mean, that was
wildly violent.
notoriously horrifying time there, right?
Yeah, and I was a Kilo company, the company I was with. We were tasked with the defense of the government center, which was it was the capital building of Al Anbar province. So essentially, anybody that had a grievance with the occupation came on down to the Gov Center and expressed your unhappiness, generally with RPGs or mortar rounds or direct fire. So we it was an intense deployment. It was very violent. It was an immensely violent city at the time. Al Qaeda in Iraq had really consolidated itself within the city at that point. So there was just an immense amount of violence against us, immense amount of violence that we were committing. The civilians in the city suffered immensely from, frankly, just being in the middle of all of it. It was hard. It was a very, very hard deployment. I don't think you'll find anybody who fought in Ramadi in 2006 who will say otherwise. Got back from that deployment. At this point, I was a corporal. I'd served as the machine gun section leader, and I had the opportunity to either get out of the Marine Corps or extend for a few months and redeploy with my unit. And so myself and frankly a bunch of the guys with 2 deployments under their belts who were all in leadership roles at this point, we pretty much all extended so we could stick around for that next deployment, which we thought was going to Afghanistan, and then it wound up being the 2-2 Mu, which meant that we primarily bounced around the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean, did some anti-piracy operations off Somalia, went ashore in Kuwait, did some training in support of and some stuff in support of OIF. Mostly though, it was going to Liberty ports, which means you pull into a port, and Marines and sailors get to go ashore and have an evening ashore and get to drink and party, which is fun when you are 22, 23 years old, and at that point suffering from an immense amount of trauma. So we there was a lot of heavy drinking back then. I mean, the infantry is always historically a heavy drinking place, but going ashore and partying pretty hard, getting tattoos, that was kind of the bulk of it. Got home from that deployment, got out of the Marine Corps. I'd been accepted to college, George Washington University in DC. Started at GW, promptly realized that I was not ready for that. It was 2008, the war was still on, buddies were still deploying. I really felt like I was kind of not pulling my weight. So I wound up going to reenlist in the Marine Corps, but I have sleeve tattoos, forearm tattoos, and the Marine Corps changed the rules. 2007, they changed the MAR admin. Yeah, so no more sleeve tattoos, even though I got them all they're literally Marine Corps tattoos. I mean, it's an Eagle Globe and Anchor. It's 0331, my MOS.
What a stupid fucking rule. Okay.
Yeah, well, no, if any Marines are watching this who are in around the time I was in, they're all nodding along because they know how stupid it's like. It drove everybody insane. Needless to say, couldn't reenlist into the Marine Corps because of my sleeve tattoos. Went to the Army. Army doesn't care about tattoos below your or showing on your forearms, and so I joined the Army as an 11 Bravo and infantry as well. and went to a long-range surveillance company and became a reconnaissance and surveillance team leader. And then deployed to Afghanistan in 2010, 2011, in support of a rifle company from Iowa. And I served as a rifle team leader and a rifle squad leader in Northeast Afghanistan. Got back from that deployment in 2011 and got out of the Army in 2012.
And so you served in both of the post 9/11 wars. I mean, was your and the takeaway was the same in each theater, just sort of like disillusionment with the mission, the cause, the purpose, everything?
When I got out of the Marine Corps, the big issue was that I had felt we were doing things wrong. I believed in coin. I believed in counterinsurgency doctrine. I really thought that there was this kind of like intellectual way of fighting the war where we were going to connect with civilians, we were going to build relationships, build this whole thing, and that
Yeah.
we were going to. And when I went to college, that was kind of my idea. I was like, okay, I'm going to like engage with these more intellectual concepts. This is going to give me a better foundation. I'm going to go back into the military with this foundation, so we do this right. Um, when I went to Afghanistan in 10 and 11, and at this point, I'm going back because I think that we've learned the lessons. I'm hearing all the words from the General Petraeus
Right.
and General Mattis have written the counterinsurgency manual. Like, oh, and it's all right. I'm reading it all. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. And then I went to Afghanistan, and we were doing the exact same bullshit. We called it different things. We used different words. It was the same bullshit. It was just metrics. It was like, how much money did we spend? How many people did we kill? How many buildings did we build, even if they're now empty and nobody's using them? It was like nobody ever asked like, how much better off are the Afghans in this part of Afghanistan than when you got here?
Hmm.
Nobody was ever interested in that question. It was just all these metrics, and I was just I, I left that. I left in 2011. My mom could attest. I got home from that deployment and I was like, we need to leave this place yesterday. Like, we are going to lose this war. This was in 2011.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nobody knows what we're doing. There's no plan. I mean, it's a joke. And that was when I began to get incredibly critical of US foreign policy. Everything I had taken part in felt like it had zero value. And 2014 rolls around, or 15, and then like Fallujah and Ramadi fall to ISIS,
Yeah.
and I was like, all right,
Yeah.
what was like, I'm just like, what was the point of any of this? This was like the most like, and I took part in this. Some of these deployments were just immensely violent, and I watched friends die. I watched friends get seriously injured. We killed people. I mean, like, it was a very. These were. I mean, I wasn't JD Vance. Like, I wasn't like writing up. I wasn't writing up like a report on Camp Fallujah. Like, we were fighting the war, and I still struggle with this because I still have an immense amount of pride in my military service,
Yeah.
and I'm still very. And in many ways, it was like one of the things I was best at, and I'm very proud of that. At the same time, I don't know what I don't know what happened in Ramadi in 2006 that made life better for the people of Sullivan, Maine.
Hmm.
And I don't think anybody's ever going to be able to convince me that there was anything.
Yeah. Look, I think you're struggling with something that like everyone who worked on these conflicts struggled with. Look, I think there's an argument the war in Afghanistan should have ended after Osama bin Laden was killed, right? There's all these windows when I think we should have ended that war. I think everyone who talks about these wars struggles with what you're struggling with now, which is like, how do you honor the service and sacrifice and patriotism of the people who went overseas and fought and did something incredibly brave and noble with the end results, which are apparent to all of us, which is, the Taliban currently running Afghanistan and, ISIS coming back in Iraq and all the challenges that we don't need to relitigate. But,
Well, I will just say this too. I went back in 18.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because you went back. So you get out of the Army, you go to school for a while in D.C., you go back to Afghanistan to work as a security contractor for the State Department in Kabul. I think it was with a company called Constellus.
Yeah, Constellus essentially bought up all of the old security companies that used to provide these services. So it used to be, back in the day, there was like Triple Canopy, Blackwater,
Right.
SOC, SMG. There were like a bunch and they all vied for the same contracts. over time, amusingly, just like everything else, ownership got consolidated. By 2018, Constellus had pretty much bought up everything. So they like I worked for a company. My first contract was a company called IDS, International Development Solutions, and then within like a month or two of being in Kabul, that promptly turned into Triple Canopy.
Hmm.
But it was all Constellus. It was the exact same company. They just kind of like changed the, it's all. I mean, this was when I went from being disillusioned to just being nihilistic,
Hmm.
because there I am in Afghanistan 7 years after the last time I was there. But now I'm on the ambassador security detail. And now I'm like seeing things from the higher level. I mean, last time I was there, I was an infantry sergeant, right? And now I'm here like interacting with the NATO leadership, US military leadership, the diplomatic leadership, the UN leadership. Nothing had changed. 7 years. Nothing had changed. No new ideas. No, like, I mean, it was like, they reframed things. They had new projects. Everybody had a new project that they were doing. All bullshit.
Yeah.
And the only thing that it was happening was we were expending an immense amount of taxpayer money on all of these projects, including like the contract I was on. I mean, I look at this, I look back, it all seemed like a big jobs program, frankly. I mean, like just a way of moving taxpayer dollars into the pockets of all these security and defense companies, because nothing I was saying made any sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't moving us any closer. It didn't. I don't even think anybody knew what they were trying to move closer to. I lasted about 6 months. I quit that job. I quit in July of 2018. I was there for 6 months, and I was like, this is the dumbest goddamn thing. I cannot. I could not be engaged with the system anymore. I was fully checked out. And then I went back to Maine, full like I bought a boat, I got into oyster farming, and I essentially never looked back until now, quite frankly.
I guess my only question was after like these really demoralizing tours, that the final one in Afghanistan, what made you think like, okay, one last shot, maybe as a security contractor, like that might be the right thing for me?
I was utterly lost and had no idea what to do with my life.
Yeah.
Like the one thing that I was good at, that I knew I was good at, the one skill set I knew I had was being a soldier, carrying guns in war zones for the United States. That was like the last time I'd been good at anything that I felt I'd been good at something. The last time I'd felt confidence in myself and my skills was doing that. Like I'd spent the intervening years going to college and being like having a lot of untreated PTSD, having a lot of and the struggles that coincide with that. I was lost, and I went looking. I went looking for answers in the one place I thought I could find them, and then very promptly was like, "Oh well, that's just clearly not going to do it."
Right. Right.
And then I went, and then that was when I decided that I probably had to start looking in totally different places, like say becoming an oyster farmer in my hometown, which was never on my list of things to do with my life, but also neither was running for U.S. Senate. So
Yeah.
things go in weird directions.
Things get weird. I have two more questions for you because I've kept you for like nearly an hour now. Is there an oyster farming season? Are you out there all year round?
Yeah, so in my part of Maine, it's fairly seasonal. We start in April, and we usually finish up the season by January 1st.
You have to be freezing your ass off.
Yeah, it's cold. Wintertime's cold. That's what clothes are for. Um, and then January through April is fixing all the equipment that broke during this. I mean, it's farming. You have a harvest season, a growing season, and then you have your off season in which you prepare all the gear and all the stuff. I mean, it's the ocean. The ocean is destroying everything constantly. Boats, their natural habitat is at the bottom of the sea, so we have to constantly coax them along to stay up with us.
Uh-huh.
Outboard engines. I mean, there's always stuff to work on in the winter. So wintertime is very project kind of focused, and then April through January is when we're kind of in like it's very, I'm not going to get into details. It'll take hours, but there's a lot of kind of ups and downs to how the oyster season works. But dude, it saved my life. It absolutely, like being able to become connected with like the sea, making a living on the ocean by myself. I mean, I spent so many of those early years on the boat alone, which frankly was like just everything I needed.
Hmm.
And if I hadn't done that, I would not be where I am, without question. And it's growing food.
Yeah.
I love farming. It's such a beautiful thing.
It sounds cool and it sounds fun. I'm just a huge wimp, and being on a boat in Maine in January sounds challenging, but you're clearly tougher than I am.
Well, it feeds my inner infantryman that still enjoys a little bit of suffering.
Yeah,
So
you embrace the suck.
yeah.
Big picture, final question. What is broken with the Democratic Party today, and how are you different, and how do you want to fix it?
First and foremost, I think the Democratic Party has is no longer representative of Democrats. So I mean, I've spent the past month going all over the state of Maine, holding town halls. I don't meet a single Democrat in real life who thinks that raising taxes on the wealthy to pay for healthcare is a bad idea. I haven't met a single Democrat who thinks that we shouldn't be thinking about big structural changes in like the way of like FDR. I mean, Democrats across the party believe in the party of working people. They believe in it being a party that represents justice, a party that represents decency, and making this whole society work for everybody in it. That is what Democrats believe everywhere I go. And I firmly believe that if the Democratic Party was run by the majority of the people in it, it would be that party. I think the real problem is at the highest echelons in leadership, it is not that party. In the higher echelons, it is a party that is very concerned about the donor class. It is very concerned about its relationships with fundraising and money. It is very concerned with holding on to like personal power and not expanding power and frankly empowering people to build power through organizing, which is something we're really focused on my campaign. Um, it's I just think it is entirely the people driving the decision making at the highest level. They do not understand the moment in history they are in. They do not understand that there is a deep, deep need from the electorate, from the American people for real answers, big, heroic structural change, the kind of stuff that gave us Social Security, the kind of stuff that gave us Medicare and Medicaid. That's what people want because the crises that we are facing, they are huge. We are not talking about stuff that can be fixed with a block grant here or a tax credit there. We need to be thinking big again. And so many people in this country want that. And they understand that they are living in a system that has been built to screw them. And it's been built by these same people. It's the same people that sent me to Iraq. It's the same people that sent me back to Afghanistan. The same people that over and over and over again do not show up to fight for big, courageous change for American working people. That's what people want out of the Democratic Party. That's why I am a Democrat. It's why I'm running as a Democrat. I believe in that kind of Democratic Party. And that's what we're trying to build. And yet the leadership of the party sees that across the country, sees candidates across the country that represent that. And its only response is to crush them. Its only response is to try to bury people, rip their lives apart, call them communists and Nazis within 4 days of each other. Just try to like embarrass people, I guess. And we're not going to get working people into politics. We're not going to get a politics that represents everyday Americans, all of whom have lived complicated lives, all of whom who have lived lives that are based around evolving as people. We're not getting that. We're not going to get that if this is what the party does. And we have to beat them. That's the only, I mean, for me, that's the only option. We have to build power and we have to beat them. And that's why I like all of this stuff. There's nothing these people can take from me that I actually treasure in my life. They can't take the town of Sullivan, Maine. Can't take my boats. My oyster farm is still there. My friends are still there. My neighbors are still there. My wife, my family. That's the stuff that I take seriously. All this other stuff, You can like rip my life apart, call me whatever names you want, insinuate whatever you want, but I'm not in this for myself. I'm in this because we need to do something totally different. And if the sacrifice that's required is getting dragged through the mud, then so be it. And I'm staying in this thing because of that. So
Well, Grant Platner, thank you so much for doing the show. I really appreciate your time and for being willing to talk about all this stuff, and hope to see you again soon.
thanks, man. I really appreciate it.